Welcome back. So Apple's WWDC keynote was this week, and there's a ton of stuff announced, from new software to new Macs to even an entirely new product line with Vision Pro. Starting with the software though, iOS 17 looks like it's just enhancing all of the normal day-to-day tasks that you're doing on your phone. Like the phone app has posters for contacts that come up when you get a call or when you share your contact info with someone via AirDrop. And there are real-time transcriptions for voicemails, so you know if a call is urgent and you can then go in and accept it. You can even now leave voicemails for FaceTime calls. So when someone doesn't answer, you have the option of sending them a video message with a little context as to why you called. There's also more intelligent input that uses a transformer model for word prediction in autocorrect, which is also, by the way, now looking for sentence level mistakes and not just a word you're typing. But it's nice to see that there's also an easy way to undo any changes that you don't want just by tapping. It also learns and adapts to how you type, which is really convenient, so you're not going back and constantly making the same changes to the same things that are getting corrected. And AirDrop also had a couple updates. So now you can just share content or your actual contact info by just bringing your phones together. And I think the best part, which I'll appreciate a lot once I start using it on a regular basis, is you don't need to be inside of the AirDrop range anymore. So if you walk away, it'll just use the internet to keep sending stuff. But I think some of my favorite updates were to the Messages app. So there's now enhanced search with filters, a catch-up arrow to see the first unread message in a chain, swiping to reply on a message, custom stickers, and a check-in feature so you know when people you care about get home safely. Also, new transcriptions for audio messages are going to be so convenient. I get these on a fairly regular basis, and I don't always have the chance to listen to them immediately. And sometimes I do forget to go back and listen to them. These are all relatively small changes, kind of quality of life for just making things easier. So, day to day, this should make a difference. But iOS 17 also has a few completely brand new things. There's a journal app that suggests personalized prompts for your reflections. Hey Siri was shortened to just Siri. And there's a new standby mode, which looks pretty useful. So basically, when your phone is locked and charging, it'll display smart stacks and widgets to show relevant info that adapts based on where you're charging. And watchOS 10 also had pretty similarly themed updates with just enhancing the overall experience. On your watch face, the digital crown now scrolls through smart stacks of widgets. Complications can now actually be inside of widgets. And the activity app, along with the general design language of watchOS, was updated to take up the whole screen, so you can now more easily see and show information. And cycling workouts were updated to give you a lot more information on your ride. Also, there were some new features to help with mental health, which is really nice to see. So now you can track your emotions and what's contributing to your state of mind in the mindfulness app, along with a few vision health features to make sure you or your kids spend enough time outside and aren't too close to screens. Moving on to iPadOS 17, this includes a lot of the same stuff that you see in iOS 17, along with a few extra things for those specific workflows. So iPads finally got personalized lock screens, which is a really great use of that real estate. You might as well have information on a big screen that isn't just the time. I wonder if they'll bring standby mode to the iPad as well. Kind of like personalized lock screens, you might as well have relevant information on it while it's just charging. Also, widgets are now actually interactive, so you can just do quick tasks right on the home screen rather than having to actually open the full app. And for PDFs, it can identify fields to use autofill or sign with your Apple Pencil. And there's also support for full width PDFs in the Notes app, along with multiple files per note, so that you can annotate with real-time updates when you're working with someone else. Also, Stage Manager got a couple updates. It now supports external webcams and has some more flexibility with how you size and position your windows. Personally, I don't use Stage Manager on my iPad or my Mac. I tried it once, but it just doesn't fit with how I like to work. But for people who do use it, these are going to be some really helpful updates. And there's also a bunch of cool announcements for the audio and home tech. AirPlay is going to have on-device intelligence to learn your preferences over time, and it'll be available in some hotels, so you can just scan a QR code to automatically connect and start sharing to the TV. Apple Music is finally getting collaborative playlists, and when you're on a road trip, you can make a share play session so everyone can play music from their phones. AirPods are also getting a new feature called Adaptive Audio, which is kind of like a hybrid between ANC and transparency mode. So it'll reduce those loud and distracting sounds, but you'll still be able to stay present in your surroundings. There's also conversation awareness. So now when you start talking, it can recognize that It'll automatically lower the volume of what you're listening to, amplify the voices around you, and then start cutting down on the background noises in your surroundings. tvOS is getting a redesigned control center, photo memories as screensavers, and FaceTime using continuity camera from your iPhone or iPad. I'm not sure how often this will like realistically get used, but it does seem like a really cool concept for group FaceTime calls with like your entire family. Also, the Siri remote is now going to get Find My support, and this will be really nice to have since my dog keeps stealing it and hiding it in places. And much like iPadOS 17, macOS Sonoma, which is an interesting name, will inherit a lot of the features from iOS 17 and a little bit from the Apple TV with these new drone style screensavers. So macOS now supports widgets, and you can just drag them onto the desktop and they'll fade away into the background when you open an app. There's also a new game mode, so you'll have smoother frame rates and lower latency, along with CPU and GPU priority over other like background tasks. Apple also built a new toolkit so developers can more easily port their games to Mac, but I have seen some people just using it to run Windows games on their Mac. So, it'll be interesting to see how this tool evolves over time and if it stays more towards developers or becomes more of a compatibility layer like Proton on the Steam Deck. There's also some really cool features for video calls that let you have a presenter overlay when you share your screen and use gestures to trigger reactions, which are done at a system level, so they're available across all apps and not just FaceTime. I'm definitely gonna, have some fun with this on Teams calls. Also, Safari has some added privacy features along with profiles, so you can separate your browsing data between different contexts like home, work, and school. And you can turn any site into a web app to access right from the dock with an experience that seems pretty app-like, which is super cool. I'm excited to try this out specifically with Coda since they don't have a native Mac app, and this feels like a really good way to kind of fill that gap. I already have all 3 of these betas installed on my devices and I'm using them daily, so be sure to subscribe down below for more stuff about that. But moving on to the hardware, they announced 3 new Macs. First up was the 15-inch MacBook Air powered by the M2 chip. It's supposedly the thinnest 15-inch laptop you can get at only 3 pounds with no fans. It starts at $1299 and the 13-inch M2 Air is moving down to start at $1099. There's also a refresh to the Mac Studio. You can now get it with either an M2 Max or an M2 Ultra, which is just 2 M2 Maxes attached together using their Ultra Fusion tech. It can have up to 192 gigabytes of RAM, and they called it the most powerful chip for a personal computer, which I fully believe. Like, this thing sounds absolutely wild. It can apparently play back 22 streams of 8K ProRes at once and support up to 8 displays. Who has a setup? Who's doing this? If it's you, comment down below. I just have a couple questions. And with the M2 Max, it'll start at $1999, which isn't that bad of a deal if you're going to utilize all of the power. But if for some reason you need more, there's finally an Apple Silicon Mac Pro with all of the configurations coming standard with the M2 Ultra, along with 8 Thunderbolt 4 ports and 6 PCIe Gen 4 expansion slots that can be used for any task-specific card that isn't a graphics card. It starts at $69.99, but you can configure it up to like $12,000, which is still considerably cheaper than the Intel Mac Pro. And last up was the new Vision Pro mixed reality headset that's meant to blend digital content into the space around you with eye, hand, and voice control. I feel like I could make an entire video just about this, but here's a quick overview. It's powered by an M2 along with a new R1 chip that's designed specifically for real-time sensor processing from the 12 cameras, 5 sensors, and 6 microphones. They say you can stream a new image to the displays every 12 milliseconds, which is going to give you an essentially real-time view of the world across the 12 million pixels on the 2 displays. Apple also made a point to say that you're never fully isolated from your environment and the people around you with a new feature called Eyesight, which just projects a rendering of your eyes on the front of the Vision Pro and then adjusts based on how immersed you are so people know if you can see them. I feel like I need to see this in person before I can have any solid thoughts on what that entirely seems like. It could go either way, it's gotta be nice to have, or it could be weird. And the entire digital persona that they talked about for a natural representation of yourself inside the headset, it's the same way. Sounds interesting, but I want to see it in person. Also, Vision Pro is using Optic ID, so when you put on the headset, it uses your iris to unlock the device. This just sounds so futuristic and cool. I want that on my front door. And it has visionOS, which is Apple's first spatial operating system. So it'll run iOS and iPadOS apps in 2D, have native support for Unity apps, and use custom-built apps from the new Reality Composer Pro and Xcode. And you can apparently just look at your Mac and it'll bring the screen into the Vision Pro as one of the screens in your environment. This sounds so awesome, and I can't wait to just see what the experience is like to look at my computer and then have the screen brought up into AR. It'll be out early next year, starting at $34.99, and I'm excited to see where their whole spatial computing stuff is gonna go, especially with future iterations of Vision Pro and maybe even new products. There wasn't really a hero feature for this, and it seemed to kind of be aiming across a few different use cases, which makes sense. I mean, it is a first-gen product in a pretty new space, so I'm sure it'll find its footing. I will say it does seem pretty polished for the hardware and the software, which I guess you can expect from Apple. But let me know down in the comments what you think and what you'd want to use it for. Overall, there's a lot of stuff at WWDC that I can't wait to try out. And I also can't wait to see how this affects the rest of the AR industry. I feel like Apple building an entire new product for it kind of legitimizes what's going on. But thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more videos about tech, cameras, and making. Here's a video about the Steam Deck, and here's a video that YouTube thinks you're gonna like the best.